Alright, so we have a couple of issues here. So for one, I'm just going to fix this real quick. If you look, when you move forward, this works fine. You know what I mean? I can kind of whatever, but you'll see when I go back, it always just goes back no matter what direction I turn, because the way that it's currently set up is we just have it that player.y is equal to this. So that doesn't really work. So what I got to do is I just got to change just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and just do that speed is equal to speed speed max divided by 2. The reason for this is I don't want to be able to go down in reverse as much as fast as when I'm going forward. Alright, so that'll make it move about half the speed of the other thing. That bird is loud. Hang on a second. Alright, it'll make half speed. Now, the other thing I want to do is, in order for it to know what direction to move and all that, I'm going to have to use the same thing I did here, which is player move. So I'm going to just copy that, Control-C, and paste it in place of this one, Control-V. Now, you might have already noticed the issue here, is that if I go to do that, what's going to happen is it's going to... Oh, this is still up. Close that. If I go and do that, it's going to... it's always going to move forward because that's what it's doing right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pass it a value depending on if it's moving up or down. Okay, so on this one, in the player move on this one, I'm going to put in 1. And the player move on this one, I'm going to put -1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these based off of that value. Okay, and since I'm sending in a value, right, since there's an argument, I have to have some parameters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it direction, and the type is going to be an int. Alright, so I'm going to send it that value. So whatever is in here is what gets placed in this variable. Alright, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to multiply it times direction, dir. Okay, and that should, oops. Alright, let's see. Make sure that works correctly. Alright, and will that go? Yeah, there it goes. Okay? But you can see it doesn't go back as fast as it goes forward. Alright. So now we got this thing. Now, this would work for like a lot of different games. Like if you're doing like an asteroid game or something, you could totally use this to move around. That's partly why I'm doing it in here. Okay. Also makes it more difficult. Okay, so that's looking acceptable. So we got that going. We got that going. Oh, so the other thing is, I want to make it so that the player is getting pulled down constantly, so you don't have to like back up, because otherwise you'd have to like turn around. So just right inside of this, this one here where we're moving, that's actually an enter frame, which means this gets calculated every frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and just add that player.y is going to be equal to, we'll just do it like this actually, sorry, plus equal to, and I'm just going to make a value up here of how fast I want to go back. So we're going to do variable, we're going to do drop back speed, and that will be a number, and I'm going to set that initially to, let's say, let me see, 20 is my top. Let's say 5 and see what that gives us. Alright, and so we're just going to put drop back speed. Okay, so the idea is that this will always move it back, just constantly. 5 might be too much, we'll see. So you can see it's always moving back, and this way I can kind of, oof, this game is hard. Alright, alright, so you can kind of see that's the idea behind it. So, alright, and that, there you go. Alright, so that's mostly working fine. I think everything's good on there. Now what I want to do is set up the collision detection. Okay, so to do that, we're going to make a new function. I could just do it in this one, but I'm thinking for the sake of keeping things, you know, somewhat clean, I'm just going to make a new one. So I'm just gonna go to my code snippets, and I want this one to be an enter frame because I want it to calculate everything. So action script, event handlers, enter frame. All right, and I'm just gonna go like that, and we'll just call this track. Oops. Come on, track collision. So I'm gonna call it, and then again here, track collision. So that way I know what it is, and I'm gonna leave the trace because I'll use that as just to test that it's working. And I'm just gonna say, you know, track hit exclamation point. So we need to do a hit test. Now this one's going to be a little bit different than other ones we've done in other games. We're going to have to do hit test point. Okay, so I'm going to type it and then I'll explain it afterwards. So we're going to say if the track dot hit test point, if hit test point, and it's not going to be car, it's going to be player dot x and player dot y and true, you can go ahead and say, you know, that you hit. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. Let's go ahead and test that. Control enter. Oh, and I forgot to explain. I'll explain it afterwards. So let's bring this over here, and whoops. So you can see it's crap. But you can see it's working over here. Okay. All right, so that's good. So basically, the idea is here. I have this event. It's going to run on every frame, so it's going to be constantly running. And I just said if the track. Okay, I have a special, because this is an object, has a special built-in method that's called hit test point, which just means it's like a function like this, but it's inside of this track object. Even though we made it, it's just pre-built as part of that. And it's gonna say, okay, hit and test a point if any part of this to the player's X and Y position, which in this case means it's only a single dot. It doesn't test the whole shape. Okay. There's really only two flavors. One's that, and the other is and one is the hit test object, which will take the bounding box. But what it'll do is it'll test this one singular point, its X and Y position point, and then it will test it against this, the shape. If you put false in here as opposed to true, it'll test the bounding box of the object, which doesn't really help us out because if we did bounding box, that would be this whole big shape. Okay, so that doesn't work. But if you put the flag to true, it'll actually test the shape of it, and that's why we did true there. Okay, and then I just had it traced, and it's just gonna, in the output, it's just gonna write that there. Okay, so that's all working relatively well. Let's see if there's anything else that I need. Oh, we need to keep a score. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So let's keep a score here. So we'll do another variable, and we'll just call it time score. Okay. And it's going to be of the type number, I guess. And we're going to set that equal to 0. All right, we're going to set the time initially to 0. And then I need to have it happen on one of these functions. So you see, anyone that has enter frame, it's already doing stuff with. I'll just put it right inside the rotate track one, just because I don't feel like making another enter frame. So I'm just going to put it right inside of here. So what we'll do is we will say that, what was it? What did I call you? It's time score. Okay. We're just going to say that time score is going to be equal, or plus equal to current frame, which will tell us whatever frame that we're currently on, and then I'm going to divide that by 24. Okay, and it's because there's 20. If you look down here, we're running at 24 frames per second. And I think, oh well, and then let's go ahead and trace time score so that I can see that it's working. All right, and you don't have to trace. I'm just making sure. So if you look, you can see it's counting right here, And that's going to be our score. Our score is pretty easy because we're not doing anything too fancy with it. All right, beautiful. Good. So that will do that, and then we just need to hook this up to an object on here. Okay, and then we'll do something for the game over and things like that. So, let's make a score over here. So I'm just going to make another layer above player here. Make a new layer, and I'm just going to call it text, just because that's what's going to hold my text objects. And I'm going to go ahead, grab the text tool, make sure it's dynamic, and then you can use, select your font. I'm just going to use this one. That's what I used in the last one. And you need to make sure you tell it to embed. So click embed and choose all. Come on, choose all, and we'll hit OK. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw up here, and I'm just going to write score. Let's give it a, oh, sorry, not there. There it is. Let's give it a better color here. So it'll be this score, and we'll set it to 0 like that. Oops, again, too much coding. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just going to name this one score text so that I know what it is. Okay, so this is the instance name that I'm going to use inside my code. So I'll click on the code here, and right after this, all I got to do is do score text dot text, because I want to change the text of that object. We're going to set that equal to score. Okay, so it's going to say score, and then I'm going to concatenate. I'm going to add the time score. Time score. Now this won't work because this is a number and it has to be a string. It has to be letters. So you have to do is you have to convert it using this string and like that, and that should make it work fine. And we'll hit Control Enter and test it. And it's kind of off screen, but you can see, yay, it's keeping the score. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this in over so it does like 3 point whatever. So I'm gonna move this down. That's fine. And then I'm going to cut it off by doing this. And that looks like that's roughly, let's see what that looks like. Come on. Okay, so I cut a little too much off, so I'm just going to pull this back a little bit. Let's Control Enter. And let's see. That was pretty good. All right, so that way I only get the first 2 numbers, and that's fine. Yay, so that'll keep track of my score. All right. So, for all intents and purposes, that's working pretty good. So now what we need to do is make that the game quits if you lose, or it, and then we have like a start screen. Okay, so I'm just going to save this. Ah, crap, I didn't want to save it like that. File, save as, this game finished. All right, so we're going to add that. We'll do that in the next video. I'm just going to basically make this kind of done. And then I might add another thing in here. You'll see. Okay.